Hi, Maryam. Thank
Hi.
you so much for joining us today. I'm Emma from the Nocturnal, and today's all about the Persian version, how you've made this story from the bottom up and you've told this story. I know the Persian version, it resonated with so many viewers, including me, and I know you've probably been asked this a ton before, but can you share whether this film is inspired by your own or personal stories from the Persian American experience and community? Can you go into telling what this story meant to you?
It's more than semi-autobiographical film
Hmm.
about my family. It's a story about three generations of women and about me growing up in New York with eight brothers in one bathroom. And it's a story of family secrets and how this secret connects these strange mother and daughter through different decades until they finally can reconcile with each other and break the cycle of trauma. And more than anything, it's a comedy
Hmm.
about the Iranian-American experience of what it's like to grow up in New York and be of two different cultures, and also, our family story back home. So I really wanted to make something that was reflective of our community. I grew up not seeing our images in the media at all. And then when they finally did come, we were always terrorists or something super negative. And didn't seem truthful at all to me or my experience. So I wanted to make, when all the xenophobic rhetoric was coming out, like a couple of years ago, I thought, you know what? The best way to break through is to create a funny film about our culture that people can relate to. So that was my driving force in making the film. I wanted to make a film that was, authentic about our community, but that also was fun at the
Hmm.
same time.
For sure. I mean, you definitely balanced the humor and depth of cultural, like authenticity within the film. Definitely.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, for sure. You talked about a little bit just now how you navigated between different timelines. So I was wondering how you depicted both life in Iran and both Brooklyn. How did you approach the challenge of like seamlessly weaving these two timelines together, taking us back and forth from past Iran to present day Brooklyn? Were there any challenges between weaving these two timelines?
It's actually three timelines. It's very
Yeah,
challenging. It's
yeah.
like it's 60s Iran, 80s New York, and then present day New Jersey.
Yeah.
It was certainly challenging. I think that, in the film, the daughter has problems with her mother. And so the grandmother tells her that if you want to understand your mother, you should write about her. So
Mhm.
that becomes the first impetus of trying to break the barrier of the past and the present to see how they're connected. But in the film, the main character learns about a family secret and learns that we all have a story about why our parents came to America. And she finds out that that's actually not true. Your parents didn't come to America because they were recruited as doctors, because there weren't enough doctors in Brooklyn. They came because they were escaping a scandal. And so I think I use that structure of trying to understand the secret from the three generations of women's point of view as a way to bind the different timelines. So you have the daughter's point of view, which is more 80s, 90s pop feeling. You have the grandmother who tells, as all of our grandmothers do, they tell tall tales. So
Mhm.
it's more like a spaghetti Western. And then you have the mother who demands to tell her own story. And that's more like Iranian neorealist, slower film. So I tried to not only let the different to weave the timelines, but also to let every character lead the type of style of the section. So each section is stylized differently. So it's supposed to be reflective of the person telling the story. But it certainly was a great feat to try to encapsulate a huge Iranian-American family of like 9 kids and their family stories within less than 2 hours. But I thought the driving force was this girl who was trying to understand her mother. And that was the driving force of why we would jump timelines. I don't know
Mhm.
if, and storytelling, like the storytelling, the act of storytelling is a big aspect of the show, of the film, sorry.
Mhm. Definitely. You definitely just nailed all three of those timelines, intertwining them together. Some other standout features of the film are the obvious portrayal of Persian culture, like elements of dancing, artists like Gugush, home decor. I looked at the home and I'm like, that's my house. Yeah. So can you
My
just
mom will be happy to know.
yeah. Can you discuss, the importance of showcasing these cultural details, big or small, in your work for the audience?
I know it's funny because I think for a Persian, we grasp onto a lot of those details, and some jokes are not even translated to English. It's like a
Yeah.
little nugget for Persians.
Mhm.
For me, it's like, I wanted to be very specific in the details, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure that even through the specificity that the audience understood the main, drama of the scene. So always couching it in our specific cultural milieu, but also with an eye of like, making sure that they were like architect, like that they were types of conflicts that any audience member could understand.
Mhm.
I think if you're Italian or Irish or whatever, you might feel like this is your family, but just the details are different. Just the food is different. And also I wanted to show the immigrant culture, like we're Persian, but we're eating Chinese food, right? Because we love Chinese food. There's scenes where they're eating tadik and porter sabzi, but there's also scenes where they're eating, noodles and dumplings, because that's also very New York, right? It's like you have the interaction of just different immigrant cultures and stuff. It's a very subtle things, but more than anything, yeah, try to be very specific to this particular family, which is when they bring a little bit of Iran in America, and we brought a little bit of America to Iran, so it was that kind of exchange.
Mm-hmm. It was so nice. One of the most outstanding details for me was the girls just want to have fun, Cindy Crawford, from the beginning to the end. That song was very powerful for, I feel like, a lot of my mother too. So yeah, the very
Lauper would be so thrilled to know. So
yeah.
she, I loved her work. Cindy Lauper did a great thing. She also did the music for Kinky Boots. I don't know if you ever saw that on Broadway.
Not on
Yeah.
Broadway, but love Kinky Boots.
Yeah, amazing, right? She's such an icon. And for me, it was such a quintessentially perfect song for this film about 3 generations of women that are strong. And they just want to have fun.
Definitely, definitely. I want to go a bit into the characters now. So we have the character Shireen, who is the mother. She's depicted with so much depth and so much background. So, can you elaborate on your approach to developing this character who so many people know or so many people are, and relate to, and the themes surrounding motherhood and family dynamics in the film?
I start a scene with the first time we see her like getting ready for the heart transplant, but the first real scene that we see of her is she's being quite cruel to her daughter. So I wanted to start a scene that you think this type of woman. She's judgmental, she's this, she's that, she's like semi-homophobic. And I wanted to start with that as the basis of we see the conflict with her and her daughter. And then the film peels away the layers of how she became the woman that she is. Because part of the strategy in the film is like, oh, we reject people so many times because we think, oh, they're this or they're that. We judge people very quickly and we put them into categories. But we did never take the time to really try to understand who they are and where they come from. So that is a way to disarm the audience. So by the end, they feel, oh my God, not only do I understand her, but I love her. You know what I mean? So you go from like not liking her to loving her by the end. So I think it was important for me to set that up early, and then to break down the audience's expectations.
For sure. You nailed it. You nailed all these things. I have to be honest, Maryam. Same category as characters. A bit of a fun one, maybe. If you could step into any of the characters' shoes for a day, who would you choose? Either just be for fun or just to see their perspective of the world. Yeah.
I lost my grandmother it's actually not long ago, recently, but I always love the way she navigates the world. She's such a sassy character and she doesn't take any crap and she speaks her mind and she's so vivacious. I would love to walk into her life when she was younger. I'd be very interested to know what her life was like, a little bit more than I do in the film. Because she was quite a character and she was such a bigger than life female role model for me, and to see where she came from would be interesting.
For sure.
It was fun to do those scenes when she's a young woman, right? So when we cast that that was really fun also. Just like imagine her that she was like, 35 years old and not 85.
Mhm. For sure. We all have a mom on June that we'd all want to, see what their past was like. So yeah, for sure. I was wondering also, as a filmmaker, what challenges maybe did you encounter when creating a film that balances, as I said earlier, humor, the depth of cultural authenticity? Were there any challenges between?
Oh my God, there were so many technical challenges. We shot during COVID with a cast of 100 plus people. That was really hard. There's the challenges of casting people at different ages. That's also very, very challenging. And it was also challenging of, we flip languages a lot in the film. We go from Persian to English, and we play on the idea of what things mean. Like when the Iranians, when the brothers teach, or when Layla teaches the baby daddy the wrong word for goodbye. So all these different elements are very nuanced, but it's it took a lot of thought and rehearsal to get the timing right and to get the cultural aspects right. But in terms of challenges, there's so many. Where to begin? It was to also do a film that takes place over many different decades and make it feel still so intimate. That's a big challenge, right? To make an epic film that still you feel the characters was the biggest challenge. In the midst of 100 people in the film, you really should feel like the mother, daughter, and grandmother, and everyone else is just supporting them.
For sure. For sure. Again, nailed it though, with everything, all the obstacles between. Yeah, so the Persian version, as we talked about a little earlier, it just captures the essence of the Persian American experience, as well as we said earlier, so many other different cultures can relate. How do you see this film contributing to maybe a broader conversation about cultural representation in cinema, as I'm sure, again, so many different cultures can relate?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up longing to be part of the narratives that I was seeing around the great immigrant experience. I saw Joy Luck Club, or you saw films from Scorsese, or Spike Lee, although not immigrants, but minorities in New York. I long to have something that would represent us. So I hope that this becomes part of that canon. And I hope that people from all different immigrant backgrounds will have a special relationship to this. I think the more that we see from our cultures where we're truly American, but of a hybrid, background, the more that we can also own our identity as Americans. I think it's very sometimes, dislocating and alienating when you hear so much xenophobic rhetoric when you are an immigrant. And then you start to question, am I American? I was at a party recently and they're like, oh, where are you from? In Portugal. Oh, I'm from America. Oh, really? Where are you really from? Oh, my parents are from Iran. Oh, so you're Iranian. I said, no, I'm American. I'm just Iranian-American. I'm the quintessential American. I maintain my culture and my background, but I grew up in America and I have that hybrid identity. So I think for us to own what it means and to change the narrative of what it means to be American. Why does being American have to be something imbued with being white or being racist? That's become the narrative overseas of what America means. And that to me is crazy. This is a country made up of immigrants. How come that has become the narrative? I think we need to change that. Obviously, Obama created a new narrative as a biracial president. And I think we need to keep changing that narrative also. We need to strive and create content and create art that reflects our cultures, but reflects our cultures as hyphenated Americans.
Definitely. And, it allowed so much representation for also Persian American actors and actresses to, put themselves out there in their art with their own culture.
Oh my God, I cast half of them in my film.
Yeah.
There's 40 plus, 50 plus Persians in our film.
It was so honestly so amazing to see because you don't really see a lot of Persian actors and actresses. We're running out of time. I did want to get a bit into it, but thank you so much, Maryam, for meeting with us, creating such an amazing story and putting it out there for everyone to see. And this video is going to come out once the movie comes out, and we can't wait for everyone to watch.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm excited for folks to see it and get on your dancing shoes. You might want to do a little dance number by the end.
for sure. I was
Thank
gonna
you.
get up. Yeah, for sure. All
We'll
right.
do.
I love it. I love it so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys so much. All right. I'll let you know, update you guys on everything.
Take care.
Especially take care.